Many thanks to DayZ Podcast, Pandemonium, Fellow Trucks and Village servers, Atlas, MG Overland and the Mouse, one original DayZ server, Sheriff Line, Sauerkraut, Sergeant Pepper's DayZ Invasion server, PGZ servers, Dust Village servers, and WastZ for making this video possible. DayZ 1.23 for the first time ever gives us the awesome ability to push our vehicles in the game, but they've also significantly nerfed the ability to flip our vehicles too. So in this video we're going to explore the detailed epicness of this new mechanic, go over the best methods to unstuck our vehicles with these new changes, and how to protect your vehicle from being towed. With DayZ 1.23, if you didn't know, which you probably do know already, holding down the action key will now allow you to push all of the vehicles in the game. To push one, you will just simply need to be in front of, behind, or at the side of the vehicle with the door open, with this working with or without the door attached to it as well. The only other requirement to get this awesome new push vehicle option is that you cannot be a certain distance below or above the vehicle to push it, but you can still push vehicles that are on their side or even completely flipped over. Pushing a vehicle is a continuous action in DayZ and consumes a lot of stamina while you're doing it, with this action locking you into an animation that takes several seconds to escape from. So if you're getting shot while you're inside this animation, you're probably dead. There's no way to efficiently or best use stamina when it comes to pushing vehicles. There's no trick to it. The devs have done a really good job here, but the EpiPen does give you 1 minute of raw pushing power without any stamina drain. Due to the vehicle not moving at all until around 40% of this circle thing here is full, the minimum stamina requirement to move a vehicle is around 30% down here, but you're going to need around 50% to fully push any of the vehicles in DayZ. If the vehicle doesn't get pushed away from your character, the animation will continue and the stamina drain will also continue until this circle is fully complete, with one full animation of this draining nearly all of your stamina. So around 100% of your stamina is drained during 100% of this circle gauge going round. How far you push the vehicle is based on the default weight of the vehicle, but all vehicles can easily be split into two different groups, cars and non-cars. The 4 cars in the game go the exact same distance, so I believe it's not really based on weight, but more based on the type of car. So these 4 cars will go the exact same distance, and these 2 non-cars go the exact same distance too, with the 2 non-cars barely being worth pushing at all. They don't go any distance on flat surfaces. The weight you put into the vehicle doesn't make any difference either. I tested this on a larder that had full plate carriers, 150 kilograms of plate carriers versus no plate carriers at all, and this other vehicle was also full of gasoline and full of water. It didn't make any difference. However, the surface you're pushing a vehicle on does, but only very slightly due to the extra drag the wheels create on the surface. So different surfaces have different drag values in DayZ, so the pushing power isn't affected, but the vehicle slows down faster due to the surface it's on, with this barely being noticeable. If you're pushing a vehicle on sand versus pushing a vehicle on concrete, you're barely going to notice a difference, but there is one. The biggest factors that determine how far a vehicle will be pushed in DayZ are the incline or decline of the surface that the vehicle is currently on, and how many wheels are touching the ground for that vehicle. So even if it has 4 wheels and only 3 of them are touching the ground, it will treat the vehicle as if it only has 3 wheels. With just 1 wheel missing or 3 wheels touching the ground, it will get pushed half the distance of having 4 wheels touching the ground, with this distance getting significantly lower the fewer wheels you have or the fewer wheels that are touching the ground. But ruined wheels will perform much better than no wheels at all. The direction your character is facing when you start pushing doesn't make any difference at all though. It's just an animation. The engine only cares if you're pushing a vehicle backwards or forwards, and these are the only directions that you can push a vehicle. The position you're pushing it from doesn't make any difference. However, you can position the wheels in the direction you want the car to go, and then you push the car and it will go in that direction, or you can have somebody inside the car steering as you're pushing, which means that we can now position cars without any vehicle parts. As long as you have some wheels, you can position a car however you want, with no fuel, no water, no battery, not even an engine. Do note though, if you're steering a vehicle and you're too close to it, for example if you're pushing from the door, you will take damage as it steers into you, but the damage you take is very minimal. It's around 5 health damage per hit, and you can still push vehicles at any health level. Even if you have a broken leg, an unsplinted broken leg will allow you to push a vehicle still. In previous patches, it was possible to place items under the wheels of vehicles to get them unstuck. We used some sort of glitch to flip the vehicles to get them unstuck, but now vehicle parts or items in general will auto position themselves away from vehicles, much like parents avoiding new Disney movies. It is still possible with luck, but for the most part, pushing your vehicle is going to be the answer to unstucking your vehicle, because flipping them using this mechanic is just going to be near impossible now. The same can be said about cars on their side. Position vehicle parts around the car that's flipped on its side, and you can push it into the vehicle part and it will knock it over sometimes if you're lucky, but it's still going to be much harder to flip or turn a vehicle without this flipping mechanic in the game. Because of this, any vehicle on its roof is pretty much lost now then, as getting a part underneath this roof to do the flipping mechanic that I spoke about earlier is just not going to work, and pushing this vehicle, it doesn't really do anything. The only way I see a completely flipped vehicle getting back onto its wheels then is if another vehicle rams into it, but this could also cause two vehicles to be on their roof instead. If the vehicle is upright though, this push mechanic is an absolute godsend for helping you clear obstacles like rocks, fences and these little ravines here. If you get stuck in these situations in the last patch, you had to leave the vehicle unless you were really good at flipping the vehicle, which you now cannot do. But this push mechanic makes it so much easier. You don't have to position parts around the vehicle, you can just get in front of it, push it and you're done. As a result of this new pushing mechanic being added to the game, it has a lot of players curious about what's actually possible or what the limits are of this new mechanic. So I went through a lot of your questions and here are all the answers that I found. First of all, unfortunately, 2 players or more cannot push a vehicle at the same time. In fact, another player cannot interact with a vehicle almost at all while it's being pushed and a few seconds after the push animation finishes. You can do a few actions such as opening doors, but you cannot get into the vehicle or manipulate the vehicle in any way, such as adding fuel or taking out the spark plug. You cannot have a tug of war, you cannot have somebody in front of the vehicle and behind the vehicle pushing at the same time, and you cannot push with multiple players pushing at the same time to do some sort of almighty powerful push. In real life, when you have a flat battery, you can get a push from somebody and they can jump start your car. So in real life, you can jump start a car with no battery power at all, which sadly isn't possible in the game. If somebody is pushing you and you're inside the car trying to start the car in first or second gear with a flat battery, it won't start the car. If a player is inside the driver's seat of a vehicle, it will go further if you push it on a decline. So on a decline, it will go further if somebody is inside the driver's seat of the vehicle, and it won't stop until the ground becomes flat again. So with just one push, I move this car 50 meters. Whether a vehicle is in neutral, first, last, reverse or any gear at all doesn't make any difference. They're all exactly the same. Even though this doesn't make sense realistically, you can push a car in first gear backwards. And this also applies to vehicles that are switched on or off. It doesn't matter if the vehicle is switched on or off, it only matters if somebody is inside the driver's seat. To protect your vehicle now from being pushed away or towed away by a fresh spawn, all you really need to do is take the wheels off and hide them somewhere. This is a lot more work than just taking the spark plug out, but even then, it does move slightly. Even if you take all the wheels off, it is possible to push a vehicle away, but it would take so much longer. Players can push your vehicles off of a cliff to destroy it, so a fresh spawn can destroy your car just by pushing it down a hill or off a cliff, or they can just push it into water and they will instantly kill it. So be very careful where you put your car now. Driving into or pushing a car into gas pumps won't do anything at all, but you can trigger all types of traps in DayZ by pushing a vehicle over them. This push mechanic also allows players to create barricades with vehicles. So for example, you can just push a vehicle in front of a door and then take all of the wheels off, and that way you can create a barricade. You can push it out the way without any wheels on, but it's going to be so much more difficult. It's going to slow people down, certainly. You can damage and kill other players by pushing a vehicle. So if somebody steps on top of a vehicle, you can push the vehicle or you can push the vehicle into them to cause 5 health damage repeatedly per hit. And this locks them into this animation too. So you can kill a player using this method, but there's much better methods to kill players. Another great way to kill or be killed is activating a vehicle's physics by pushing it. Much like throwing an object at a vehicle activates the physics of the vehicle, pushing a vehicle also activates the physics, and seeing as you're close to that vehicle, it can be very dangerous if you push a vehicle while it's stuck inside of other objects. And finally, the speed at which you can push these 4 different cars is 1 kilometer every 20 minutes on flat ground with all 4 wheels. So around 50 meters every 1 minute. Very slow, but it is possible to push a vehicle very, very far away if you have the patience. Having a player inside won't make much of a difference either, as it will continuously roll if the player is inside the driver's seat, which means you cannot push it again and again. You have to wait for it to stop and then push it again, and it travels really slowly. So it might just be better to push the vehicle every now and then rather than doing this rolling method that's very slow here. You can control it more because you can control the steering, but you require 2 players to do this, and you will have to wait a long time as well. If you guys have any more questions about this, please put them below in the comments and I'll try to answer them as best I can. Also, let me know how you feel about the flipping mechanic and how it's basically been removed, and your experiences with this new pushing mechanic. Do you believe it's a good or a bad addition to the game? Let me know in the comments. With the release of this video, this means that DayZ 1.23, as far as WOBO is concerned, is fully covered when it comes to the major changes in this patch. So if you want to learn everything that has changed in this patch, I would recommend these videos here. This will get you up to speed. Thank you very much for watching and have a good day.